Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. It's great to have you here. It's great to have the camera working. It's great to have everything rolling today. It feels almost like we're all there. Chris Halleck's still not with us, still on vacation, so we're missing that component, but the rest of it feels like we're really on a roll here. Hi to everybody in our chat. Hi to everybody who's just kind of lurking and watching and all that other stuff that everybody does. If you want to become a member of this particular community, the way you do that is to go to dkps.net/join. It's 99 cents a month. You get all kinds of perks, especially in season, because we're going to be doing live shows. We're going to be doing stuff after games. We're going to be doing stuff that's specific to our members, and then you're going to get all mad because you're not a member, and then you're going to be scrambling. If you do it now, you kind of just get it out of the way. Our goal is to have 3,000 members by the time the football flies in the lovely swamps of East Rutherford, New Jersey. We have a lot of different concepts that we can touch on this time of year because it's a nebulous time of year for football. Almost nothing happening. In fact, the only thing going on in the city today, obviously, is the NHL draft. The Penguins actually are elsewhere on this very block, plotting who they're going to take tonight with the numbers 11 and 12 picks back to back, which is kind of cool, actually. Or they'll move up via trade, or they'll move down via trade, or they'll move those picks for prospects that are closer to being ready so that they can be available for some of the remainder of Sidney Crosby's career. Fascinating night, I think, for the franchise. I really do. As far as football goes, not so much. So I decided to come at you today with a little bit of a different vibe. If you listen to any of the commentary that I do, or the written commentary, or any of this, you'll know that I'm not a real big fan of blow it up rebuilds, mostly because they don't work. There's, especially in Pittsburgh, this notion that there's only one way to do this, and that's to just send everybody out the door, go bankrupt, finish dead last, throw games, and people can't get past that. Why? Because that's how we got Mario Lemieux. That's how we got Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. And that's how the Pirates do things every 5 years, just because they don't know what the hell else they're doing. So we think that's how it's supposed to be with everything. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to ask you, and you are smart football people here, okay? That's the kind of community we're trying to build here. We're not trying to do hot takes, lowest common denominator stuff. If you look at the Steelers as they are currently constituted, is there any point, including right now possibly, which you would say, hey, that's it, okay? Push the plunger. Everybody goes. Pile up 1 million draft picks. Do whatever you got to do, but this ain't it. And if we have to, we'll trade those draft picks because it's a salary cap league. You can't just bottom out. Meaning salary cap system, for anybody who doesn't know, always involves both a ceiling and a floor. You never have to say that. And you do that and you go, all right, we're going to pay, 2 or 3 guys, but it's going to be with an understanding that there's a total rebuild. We're doing that. We're going to trade bleeping everybody who's tradable. When would you see that as being the right move, if at all, for this franchise? Or do you think that it's just not a thing with the Steelers or with the NFL? That's what I want to hear from you. Fill the comments up with this. Rebuild or not? Rebuild now, rebuild later, rebuild never. If you're the Steelers, okay? You can get this done. I'm trusting you on this. I want you to carry the program today. And you're going to do that right when we come back.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
You know, David Schaefer gets us started with a solid point here, and I don't know that he's wrong. I don't think he's being cute or funny or something. He says the Steelers haven't rebuilt since 1970. If you're aware of that actual history, when Chuck Noll took over the team, had the 1-win season and all that, and then he commits to Mean Joe Green. He commits to Terry Bradshaw. He also committed to looking around at that room of last place losers, by and large, not all of them. There are actually a couple of pretty great players, incidentally, on that team, the one game. And he looked around at them and said, yeah, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm paraphrasing here. Most of you aren't going to be here. Okay. Just telling you that right now. Most of you aren't going to be here. It's actually a great psychological thing, because you're thinking, but I'd like to be here. What do I have to do to stay? And then they do a pure build, probably about as pure a rebuild as you can have in professional sports. Some of you might be able to, who are really into your history, might be able to tell me who those. I think Andy Russell was on that team, the one-win team. But other players who were on that one-win team who were legitimately great, the ones that Noel wasn't talking about, if you know your Steelers history. Frank Ray says, because he always has, every comment has to be some kind of shot at Mike Tomlin. Rebuilding anything after Mike Tomlin posted, don't do that. It's crusading. It's boring. Dave Black says, a true rebuild could happen. For when the Steelers get a new head coach, it won't happen. There are only a few players short usually. Yeah, but you can make yourself more than a few players short. If you know what I'm saying, you can trade guys that you know you could use right now, that you know would leave significant holes behind if they left. But you say, I don't care, because I'm interested in piling up future assets right now. Okay. And yes, actually, Dave, I was laughing only because you brought up Tomlin right after I made fun of Frank for bringing up Tomlin, which he always does. But you're right. This could not happen under the current head coach. He would have zero appetite for this. And even if he managed to muster some appetite for it, he wouldn't have the patience to come close to seeing it through. Greg says, full rebuild never. The biggest difference between the NFL and the NHL or Major League Baseball is a single NFL draft class can turn a franchise around, not so much in the other two sports. And yeah, I mean, you really got to hit. It's not as easy as it. You know, there's not too many classes of 1974 floating around anymore. The scouting is so much more sophisticated. Everybody sees everybody. There aren't as many secrets. There's analytics involved. There's the scouting combine. There just isn't really much that you're going to know here. John says that L.C. Greenwood was part of that one-win team. Also that Ray Mansfield. So, yeah, we're up to 3 legitimately great players on a one-win team, with Chuck Noll as your head coach. That's really, really cool. I mean, full props to those guys for sticking with it and becoming champions after something like that here. And yes, by the way, Macaroni Salad confirms that I said earlier that Andy Russell was part of that group as well. Can you imagine how those guys felt beating the Vikings in 1974 after being part of that 1-4 thing? That was your rebuild at the time. That was how it went back then. Lots of different circumstances. Macaroni Salad further contributes that the Steelers will never do a rebuild. They'll retool. Some of these reload, retool, whatever. It's just now, I think a lot of that is just people are afraid of the word rebuild. If you're rebuilding, you're rebuilding. You know, you don't have to coin some alternative phrasing for it. AFL says, I disagree. The only rebuild was the 70s. Bill Cowher rebuilt the late 80s team in the early to mid 90s. Did he, though? Did he? I don't remember at any stage of anything related to the Steelers or Cowher that they just said, yeah, everybody goes. I mean, when I'm talking about a rebuild here, I'm talking about a total clean out. Okay, everybody. I don't remember that happening with Cowher. The team was it in 89? Made it somewhere into the playoffs. I think that was the Merrill Hodge in Denver year, unless I'm misremembering. So 89 to what? The early 90s, the Steelers were really good. I don't remember there being a phase in there where you say, wow, they're just completely rebuilding here. Mark Cunningham says that LC was not on the team in 1969. Let's get this one right, people. Let's get this one right. That's part of the perils of doing a live show. The PEF says, we've been so spoiled with non-losing seasons. Can we handle a losing one, let alone a tank? Well, it depends on who you're talking to, the PEF. I always find there to be a big gap here between the fans in the stadium and the fans that are online. The fans that are online, I'm sorry, the attachment is different. The emotional attachment is different. And you're going to be more likely, in my experience of following this stuff, to be able to say something like, oh, I'd have no problem with the Steelers going 2-15. That'd be no issue for me. I'm Joe Insider, expert, knowledgeable fan, and I can deal with it. Okay. Whereas the person at the stadium's going like, I mean, I just dropped how much money to be here. And, this is really frustrating for me watching all these losses and these fumbles and this everything. I really can't stand it. It's just a completely different vibe. William says, how many playoff games did the Steelers have from their first season, 1933 to 1974? I think you want to end that at 73, actually. Feel fortunate. I don't know, but it might be single digits. It might be single digits. I'm not kidding. I keep putting you guys to work here with the research stuff. Hey, what are we paying you for, right? Jack Long says that John Kolb was on that 1969 team. Let's confirm these. John Kolb, obviously the great offensive lineman for the Super Bowl champion Steelers. Phil says that LC was drafted in 69. Well, if LC was drafted in 69, how wouldn't he have played in 69? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. And Deborah further reinforces that Greenwood was there from 69 to 81. Matthew Bunk says Jack Ham. I don't think Jack Ham was there in 69. Maybe somebody can confirm. I don't believe that that's accurate. David further points out here, Mean Joe and LC were both rookies in 69. So that's who we are. That's who we are. And Denny says, do you really want to tank in front of the Fire Canada and sell the team and fire Hextall City? And, the city's gotten pretty good at letting people know when they're upset with things. I mean, if you think that there would be some sort of general online understanding of the team going 2-15, yeah, John says that Ham was drafted in 71. He wasn't part of that. I do believe that John Kolb was, and Kolb is a legitimate great to include on that from that group. For anybody who came in a little bit late, just to refresh, we're talking about full-on rebuilds, the whole thing, the concept of it. Would you ever have an appetite for it? If so, when or why? And we're further within that trying to reinforce that the Steelers have only had one of these, and that was in 1969 and to an extent 1970, whenever Chuck Noll took over as head coach. Sam Davis was on that team as well. So we keep mentioning all these great players that were on this team, and they won one game. Justin Watson's been a member of this channel now for exactly 2 years. Congratulations to you, Justin. Always value his input. He's got some really good stuff to say. Jay Moods says that John Kolb was my neighbor when I was a kid. His son Tanner was born 3 weeks after me. I was delivering newspapers, which really dates that reference, to J.T. Thomas, member of the 1970 Steelers. I used to walk up his steps like they were lined with gold. Ooh, J.T. Thomas. Steeler South says salary cap and contracts sort of would prevent a rebuild. Yes, and I'm glad you bring that up. The disparity, the range is probably the way I should refer to it, between the NFL's salary cap and the NFL salary minimum is not significant. Now, you can make exceptions for it, 1 year, 2 year exceptions if you really need to, go all young or whatever. But generally speaking, you're in the range of around $30 million, $40 million. Okay. So there's only so much you can whack the payroll. You can't do like a 1997 Pirates thing where you just say, listen, every single player on the team is going to make minimum wage. Just can't do it. So it's a different time in that regard. So I'm understanding that as I say it. But I also understand that there are teams currently that do rebuilds, that do a 2025 style rebuild in the NFL. And would you ever be in favor of that? Could you handle it? Dave says the only time I could stomach a rebuild is after a Super Bowl win. Yeah, because you're just feeling it like, yeah, I'm good for a few years, fellas. Go ahead and do your thing. And they had to get the salary cap under control. And you're referring there, of course, to what the Rams did. Notice that nobody else has done that. It was almost like the Rams, for a while, especially when they were out there winning, were showing everybody a cheat code. Hey, you realize you could just do this and mortgage everything and go for it. No, by the way, you better win. Because if you don't, you're going to be on the hook for quite some time for what you just tried to do. Rick Love says, you end up with a good group of guys and you win for a while, and then they leave or retire, and then you suck for a while until you get the next group together again. That's the NFL. That's the NFL. I would say that the other factor to throw in when it comes to the NFL that wouldn't really apply to other sports, at least not as much, is if you have the quarterback. Okay. I'm gonna roll out the Bengals here, but I could easily do it for about half dozen teams in the NFL. If you have Joe Burrow, every year that Burrow is there is a year that you need to be going for it. You need to be doing whatever you have to do that offseason, not just to make Burrow happy, but to make the team successful. That isn't always harmonious. Okay. Burrow needed to keep both of his receivers. All right. They've done that. Burrow needed, as we saw from his rookie year when he was getting destroyed, to be protected. All right. They've done that too. And then they were left with almost nothing defensively. They got Trey Hendrickson. Okay. But now they haven't signed Hendrickson yet. I think they're going to. They're talking again. But if they stunk with Hendrickson last year, why wouldn't they stink with Hendrickson this year? It's not easy, but it does create that urgency where you absolutely can't do anything. Rebuild, reload, retool, anything that starts with a re, you can't do it. You've got to just go for it. Slim says, DK, can you name any teams that did a rebuild in this era and how successful it's been? I'll leave that up to you guys to try to cite something, because there's 32 of them. Some of them go through perpetual rebuilds. I don't really count them. I thought, just to throw out a small example, I thought that the days of the Jacksonville rebuilds were all over whenever Trevor Lawrence went their way. And it didn't really occur, did it? Trying to think of somebody else that does rebuilds or rebuilds all the time. The two New Jersey teams seem to be doing that into perpetuity. They never go anywhere because it's that market, and they panic and they say, go get a superstar, go get somebody we know because we're doing the back page of the tabloids. And then they go and they do that and they go absolutely nowhere, which is why I was derisively referring or comparing the Steelers to that as they were chasing Aaron Rodgers around this summer. Steve says, I believe it's best to look at the players on the team before Noel's first draft in 1969, because almost all of the players that Noel inherited were gone by 1972. Yeah, right. That's why I'm giving the extra credit to the Andy Russells that were there before. I don't think it's a long list, and I definitely don't want to include Mean Joe and LC if they were drafted by Noel. You follow me? One way or another, it's a total rebuild. Jonathan, good example. Patriots are showing us a rebuild. There's obviously included everybody. Okay, the iconic all-time great franchise quarterback, the iconic head coach, everybody just poof, there they went. And they are still in the process of sorting through, is something else I talk about regularly here, multiple young quarterback options to see who it is that they might have and whether or not they still need to keep looking. That's a rebuild. That's a really good example with the Patriots. David Smith says, we've been rebuilding this offense since we lost Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, that's just much of that, David. It's just because they haven't gotten the quarterback. You know? Justin says, I think I'd be okay with a rebuild if there was a clear and concise vision. Again, you're going to need a new head coach for that. But I think the perception, Justin continues, that this team is in neutral is what makes fans most frustrated. The future capital does not give me hope. There is future capital, though. There are draft picks coming. And there is stuff that you can do with those draft picks. As Arkin says, I'm curious, when would you say to do a full rebuild? DK, yeah, I haven't really chimed in on this, have I? I would say where the Steelers are concerned, that when you have a new head coach, you're going to have a new almost everything. Now, there's, of course, going to be the continuity, the Rooney family, the Steelers way, Omar Khan being his own extension of the Kevin Colbert way, the Tom Donahoe way. So you're going to have some of that rolls on. But when you have a new head coach, I think not only is it going to have to be somebody who's, obviously a really eminently qualified and ideally modern type who can move the Steelers into more of the type of football and football decisions that we're used to seeing around the NFL right now, but also somebody who has the freedom to do it. I don't want the Steelers bringing in somebody who says, hey, you got to be like Tomlin, or you got to do what we want you to do. And if that's the case, that individual might want to just say, hey, listen, I see what's here. I get it. Can we talk about this? Because I'm not feeling where this is going to be in 3 or 4 or 5 years. You see what I'm saying? Chris Halleck Vocals chimes in, because of course he does. He's really lousy at taking vacations. Says Steelers have only had that type of quarterback twice. Once was in the salary cap era. Perspective matters. Yeah, that is right. They have had exactly 2 of those quarterbacks, and one of them was the one in the cap era is obviously Ben. So it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to conceive. Michael says, once the Steelers draft a first-round franchise quarterback, they'll have about a 4-year window till they'll have to pay him. Yeah, but you know what, Mike? You can pay him and win. Look at the recent Super Bowl quarterbacks who've won and tell me how many of them were getting paid. And you also have a situation, too, where these quarterbacks don't wait very long to get paid. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to recall that the Chiefs didn't wait until Patrick Mahomes needed to be paid. The Bengals didn't wait until Burrow needed to be paid. The Bills didn't wait until Josh Allen needed to be paid. So you put those salaries on your books earlier than that. You're not stringing along your franchise quarterback. You're showing a long-term commitment to them. So ideally, they'll show you a long-term commitment right back. Mike Jones, who loves his caps lock, says certain teams, I believe, just care about tickets and jersey sales, being both New Jersey teams and the Browns. The Browns also care about playing in a suburban Walmart. Have you seen that thing? They have They put out a video yesterday of this thing it's not in Cleveland. I already forgot the name. It's something park outside the city, way outside the city. Like not like rubbing right against it, like well out there. And the design is just like, it's not even a Walmart. It's a Walmart spare warehouse. Like it's the thing Walmart keeps in the back, to hide the overflow mulch. Chris Dolnak says tanking is not a winning strategy as a rule. GM usually isn't there long after the tanking. That's the other thing to remember here. Coaches and in baseball, managers almost never survive the rebuilds, retool, whatever. They're brought in as facilitators. They're brought in as kind of the way the Pirates did with Derek Shelton, as somebody who just stands there after every loss and goes, well, that was a tough one. We'll get him tomorrow. And then they're gone by the time anything gets good. Not that the Pirates have gotten good. Chev comes in and says, is there any reason to not have a second wide receiver yet? Yeah, they haven't. I mean, they don't have the full pool yet in front of them. That's gonna take some time. Denny says, I'm sure Tomlin was anxious to build a team to his taste when he got the job, but he had Super Bowl champion players worth waiting on. Noel did not have that. Noel did not have that problem. He had Andy Russell and some guys. Tomlin came in and as all of his detractors are fond of pointing out forever and ever, he inherited a lot of great players. Snowman says we don't rebuild, we reload. Yeah, but it's nothing. That means that it's a euphemism. Because there's only some degree to which you can rebuild in the modern system. Mike Jones says rebuilding only one piece. So sad now. Should have drafted Jalen Hurts over Chase Claypool. Oh, we can do draft regrets forever and ever. We're going to start bringing up Creed Humphrey now. Donald Faribaugh comes in and says, here's a question, DK. It feels like the offense has been stagnant for years, including Ben's last year. Why does it feel we cannot get out of it? It's the quarterback. I mean, I can sit here and give you some kind of super intricate answer and talk about the way the offensive line hasn't come together, and they went at it first with free agency, and then they went at it through the draft, and that takes time, and then chemistry takes time, and then they thought they had their wide receiver and George didn't. They thought they had their running back in Najee and didn't. But it's not that. It's not that. Let me put it another way. Let's say, want to get wild hypothetical here? Let's say Kenny was awesome. Not just for that one preseason either. Let's say that Kenny was just the guy. Everything that you saw in his senior year at Pitt, everything that you saw when you loved him in the preseason and everything looked all mechanical and he's saying all the right things, looks the part, the whole deal. And the Steelers then commit to him completely. He's our guy. He's our franchise guy. He is it. We are the franchise of Kenny Pickett.
There's a black version of it.
And if you do that, then your whole vibe as an organization changes just the same way that I described the Bengals doing it with Burrow. Now, all you're thinking about is got to get these tools. Got to get these tools for Kenny. Got to load up for Kenny. That's when you go get DK Metcalf, even though you already had guys. That's when you add more to the offense than you do just repeatedly adding to the defense. It all circles around the quarterback. It really does. Alex comes in and says, hey, DK, going back to the point about retool versus rebuild, I think retool generally applies to like get rid of everyone versus get rid of some and bring in some new blood. My point is, it doesn't really matter in the NFL because there aren't degrees to it. Okay. If you're talking about the traditional reload, okay, that doesn't mean anything. What it signifies is, let's say, for example, you have one positional group on each side of the ball. Like, let's say, really you're all out of safeties or you're all out of inside linebackers. Well, we need to kind of reload on defense. What's that mean? You just need to go get some inside linebackers or you need to go get some safeties. There's nothing else to it. Steeler South says Dan Rooney once said replacing a head coach turns your team into an expansion franchise. I mean, I wouldn't dispute that. I had a conversation with somebody across the river here, referring to the baseball team, who said that if and when the Pirates do fire Ben Cherington, and they will, you're starting over. Unless you put orders in place where you say, listen, you're required to keep Paul Skeens and you're required to try to win while Skeens is here pitching and everything. But if you're going to get somebody good, you're going to get somebody who's going to, hey, man, at least give me a chance to do this my way. You're picking me. Let me build the team, right? Nakia comes in and says, rebuilds don't always work out. You have to draft impeccably and sign quality free agents. This is the most, and I'm saying this in the most positive way possible, it's the most boring but most perfect answer to everything we're talking about. The teams that get really, really good, A, have the quarterback, and B, do all this other stuff so quietly, so routinely that you don't ever even go, whoa, what a draft this team had or whatever. It's more like the Ravens. The Ravens just consistently have these really quality, smart drafts that both address their needs, but at the same time, keep piling things up from a best player available perspective. They keep adding real talent. Where does it come from? Because they're good at the draft. Chris Dolnack says Ben took less to pay the offensive line after Flacco's Super Bowl win and big contract. Well, Flacco, yeah, he set them back. That's for sure. When you start watching quarterbacks get paid so much that the team's response to those quarterbacks is, okay, but I don't know who's going to block for you, then the quarterbacks all of a sudden are feeling a whole lot more generous. Slim says, hey, DK, do you think it's better to start a rookie quarterback or at least give him half a year or even a year to develop? Are you referring specifically to Will Howard? If so, I mean, just ask that question. I don't believe you can tell what a quarterback has after half a season. I certainly don't believe you can tell what he's going to do in a practice or preseason setting or in Latrobe. And there are those, such as Ben himself, who state publicly on a regular basis and are correct that you don't even know what you have in an apparently good quarterback, a young one, until they're doing it for 3 full years. Call it the RG3 rule. Macaroni drops 20 gifts on us. Thanks, man. That's really cool. Wouldn't it be awesome if his name was really Macaroni Salad? In fairness, they could have just called him Mac as a kid, and then nobody would have told his friends that the full name was Macaroni. Sticky says, I think the con artist is too proud to tank, and I agree with it. Nobody tanks in sports. The correct terminology, or the correct usage of the terminology tank, is to lose on purpose. Nobody does that. He's one of the best GMs in the league and has not been doing it for that long. He's only getting better. Leroy says the Pirates getting good is a funny joke. It's not. You bring in somebody who knows what they're doing, and they've got that pitching staff. They got to go get you like 3-4 hitters. They'll do it like this, not this guy. So no, that is not. It's not some silly thing. They're a fewer than a handful of intelligent moves away from being able to turn that pitching staff into something that translates into wins. Snowman says, is Odell Beckham a target for the Steelers? He's still playing? I'm being serious. Is he still playing? I don't know that. Cody says, Tomlin did next to nothing with the Steelers for the better part of a decade, and that's with prime Big Ben, that offensive line, AB, Bell, etc. He deserves plenty of blame. Next to nothing is weird. I'm sorry. I know what the playoff streak is, okay? And I'm the guy who publicly advocated that the Steelers would be better off moving on with a new head coach heading into 2025. But I don't do this totally black and white stuff. That's next to nothing. Phil says the problem with that is that might have saved Canada. He means the Ben thing here. Kevin Motley says Kevin Colbert needed to be blamed for glazing Big Ben for too long. I don't even know what we're talking about now. Mike says, DK, what's the single biggest cultural or locker room shift? There's a good question. The Steelers need to make for this rebuild to really work, meaning the hypothetical rebuild, beyond just adding talent on paper. Is it just adding a QB? It has to start there. It has to. And this is why I've been harping on this for months now. I would love to see the Steelers do whatever is needed at any point in this process to just hit pause on every other bleeping thing and say, we need to get this quarterback. If we have to do a year-long tryout for 3 people, we're going to do it. Instead, they hit pause on that and went the Rodgers route, which, okay, better win. Daniel Suarez says, isn't every year a small rebuild with over 25 to 30%? It's not a rebuild. That's what the reload is. Yeah, you turn over a lot of your roster. Now, a lot of that is at the fringe of your roster. But I want to say, if you think of the 22 starters that the Steelers would have for the opener, 22 starters, 11 on each side. Forget the specialists, forget special teams, just the starters. How many new players would be on the field? Defensively, I've got Darius Slay, Derek Harmon. I'm not going to say Cole Holcomb. He's been with the team. I think that might be it, unless they go with a 3 safety set and Juan Thornhill is out there. So you're talking about 2 or 3 guys, max, on defense. And on offense, obviously, you got a new quarterback. Jalen's going to be your RB1 for the first snap, so I would count him as your starter. DK Metcalf will be out there. Anybody else? That's not that much of a turnover. Help me out if I'm missing somebody here. I don't think I am. If there's anybody else that kind of fits that spot, Hawaii Black's not going to be starting. No, he's not starting. Don't mention him. He's absolutely not starting. You have 2 down linemen out there. It's going to be Cam and it's going to be Harmon. If you have 3 down linemen out there, it's going to be Cam and Harmon and Keanu Benton. It's not going to be Black. Roman Wilson is not going to be starting. Caleb Johnson is not going to be starting. I'm talking about when they take the field first time, okay, in that game against the Jets. Troy is not new. Troy was here. Troy would be the first one to bite your head off, Frank, if you said that he was new. He doesn't like that. He was working his rear end off for a full year here. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Now, Frank's got us here. WR2. That's right. In fact, WR2 should take the field with a WR2 nameplate. Anybody else? Who will be next to Queen? It's going to be either Peyton Wilson or Cole Holcomb, both of whom were here. Okay, now Daniel Suarez says that's like 20%, is it? What's the math on that? I haven't had nearly enough caffeine to be getting into percentage math. But it's not a massive turnover. It's not like the Steelers are coming in with some all-new team. That's your offense and that's your defense. Anybody else? Anybody else have another player? No, I don't think there is one. Alex asked a question here. We're just going to take a couple more today. Hey, DK, do you think the NFL needs to do something about this new money things that seem to favor teams like LA and big liquid money teams whose teams, I have no idea what this means. I'm sorry, Alex. This is like 0, like miles over my head. John Malesko says, chemistry is a very important part of building a team, and football is the ultimate team sport. A team of B's and C's with good chemistry is going to do better than a team of A's that don't work together. I wouldn't dispute any of that. That was also one of the reasons that I was saying that everything would have been fine if Mason Rudolph were the quarterback. I don't know that anybody would put Mason, myself included, I don't think he would, in some class of A's for quarterbacks. But could he have, and will he, if he gets the opportunity, do well? Sure. Steelers fan says you lost Dan Moore, so he's being replaced, whether Troy wants to be called new or not. Doesn't matter. Troy's not new. It's our show. It's our rules. I guess not that important either. Alex attempts to clarify his point here. GMs have talked about how when they give contracts with players, depending on how some of the biggest contracts, all of the money has to get sent to the league in year one versus I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you anything of value on a subject that I just am not aware of. Rick Love says Odell is 100% not coming to the Steelers. Not if he's not playing football, no. Leroy says salary cap league stops LA and New York from running away with payroll like they do in baseball. You deal with that when you get to it. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to, until you see it spread more. The Rams had their opportunity to set a precedent for other teams, and it does not appear that anybody said, oh yeah, let's do what the Rams did. Let's just go for it. If you want a perfect example of a team that would do it, I don't want to get grim here on you, but the Falcons would have been that. Why? Arthur Blank desperately wants to win. Arthur is not young. Okay. And he's got nothing to gain from the Falcons being successful in 10 or 15 years. Okay. Not to be grim. But you would think that they would look at that and say, all right, listen, we're going to do everything that we can. We're going to trade a gazillion picks to go get ourselves finally the first good quarterback Atlanta's had since Matt Ryan. And we're going to dirty birds our way into the Super Bowl. And it's never happened. It hasn't happened for any team. And if you'd think if there was one team that would be dumb enough to try it, it would be the Browns. But as David correctly points out, they would try it and fail. Last question for the day comes from Slim, who says, hey, DK, doesn't it feel like the Steelers are doing what the Rams did by bringing in Rodgers this year? Oh, God, no, dude. Go look at what the Rams did. They sold out. They sold out on the salary cap. They sold out on future draft picks. They sold out on everything. If they didn't have the head coach that they have, you would have seen them go 0-17 for like the next decade after the price that they paid. But they do have the head coach that they have, so that was not a price that they had to pay. What a coach he is, too. When we come back, we're going to take care of a little bit of Friday business here on Double Shot of Steelers. Sean McVay, that's Chris's favorite coach too. Just loves him. Phil came in. He's not new. Phil got a new credit card. I'm on to you, Phil. You're changing credit cards just so you can get that bright green orb around your name here. No, I'm serious. I appreciate it. We all do. Steeler fan has been a member now for exactly 2 years. Stella Fierce has been with us for just a hair longer. We appreciate both of you. David Kranak dropped 5 gifts on everybody. Appreciate that. Macaroni salad with a 5 spot. Phil with 5. Stella Fierce with 5. Justin has come in with a couple years. Dude, I will get back to you, by the way, the email you sent me about writing and stuff like that. I appreciated it. Macaroni salad, who we'll just call Mac, just like his friends did in elementary school. Gifts us 20. It wouldn't be a show without Carrie coming in. Greg came in with a couple. And listen, we appreciate you guys. Appreciate you being with me here, especially this week when it's been a solo shot, because you might have noticed when I say that you have to carry the show, I mean it. This isn't one of those. We're kind of proud of this, but this isn't one of those programs where we just kind of run the comments down the side and ignore you. Yeah, you actually are the show. This is not like my daily shot podcasts that I do in the morning. This is close to 100% interactive. Even if you think about it, when Chris is here, we'll talk to each other, but we're also talking to you. This is about us and you. This is why I'm always talking about the community component to this. I don't know if that's original. I don't think it's unique, in the YouTube world, but it's something that we like doing it this way. It's fun this way. And if you can become a member of this. We'll appreciate it all the same. It's dkps.net/join is the place to go. It's 99 cents for a month. You won't even notice that it's gone. You'll look at your credit card statement and go, what the heck am I paying 99 cents for? What is this? And it's going to be us. And you'll go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, those guys. Whatever. At least it keeps them from making fun of me sitting at the uncle's table. We will see everybody again on Monday. Chris still won't be back. He'll be back, I think, at some point in the middle of next week. And we'll see how next week goes because we won't have a show on the 4th of July. And I'm flying out on the 3rd of July to Seattle to cover baseball, Pirates and Mariners out there. So we'll see how next week goes. We'll definitely have a show on Monday. And I look forward to seeing all of you at that time. Have a terrific weekend.